So I didn't get my mum a present for Mother's Day. I gave her a call though, but I haven't really been, haven't kept up communications as it were. So I've just moved to Scotland and I may have probably talked to her on the phone about 5 times in the 8 months that I've been up here. So I should probably get more on top of that, as well as that I've forgotten to give her a present for Mother's Day. Her birthday is nearing the end of the month, so I thought I'd get her something. But instead of buying her something, I thought I'd be a little bit more creative with the idea and go with something that she's been meaning to do for quite some time, and that is it's a mural of human history and like kind of almost like the greatest hits of stuff that happened in human history. So it's quite hard to even visualize that, which is probably why it stayed as an idea, because she's got other stuff going on in her life and it's just a nice thing to think about every now and then. So I thought if I get a kind of like blueprints to what we could potentially do on the wall back in her place, we could get the ball rolling. I could be the starter motor for the engine that would create the mural on an empty wall. And she's been talking about it for years, so it'd be a nice present. The present is motivation, I guess. So, where I would start is probably trying to understand where humanity started. If we get the timeline down, the most basic timeline of humanity. Kyrgyzstan made a video about the Christian calendar of it being 2024 is somewhat inaccurate. The human species, as it is today, kind of started about 10,000 years ago, so it's like 10,000, 2024. If that's the basic timeline, I think you can see that's kind of what it would look like. There is a lot of time between the inception of the idea of humanity and the agricultural revolution, right? So there's like fucking nothing until a lot of humanity starts using farms. Before that, it's like hunter-gatherer stuff. So before any of this, nothing really changed for a good chunk of time. And off the top of my head, I don't know when that is. So there's going to be a lot of research. The longest amount of time where there's nothing happening has to be squished up. So here is the majority of time, but it means nothing, almost. Writing turned up after the agricultural revolution to kind of keep track of grain and shit. Before that, there's only kind of spoken histories. There was never any settlements to speak of. There's not really much of storytelling that we can really actively use then. The agricultural revolution, that's where Civ starts, the game civilization. That starts at the agricultural revolution. That's why you start having cities and stuff. That's a good rail space to start, because that's when culture starts happening. Writing starts giving us a story to kind of see into history. So it is the 13th today. My mum's birthday is the 28th, I think. The better part of 2 weeks, right? To get all of human history neatly compiled into a place where you can kind of see it beneath you. So it's like a tiny task, right? I know it's not like I have a full-time job, so I'm gonna try and get the majority of it done now. I guess that's what we're gonna do. It is way longer to quickly do this. It's a really interesting read, to be honest. I'm only about halfway through humanity. I'm not too sure how to even piece my thoughts together properly, but it is really super interesting stuff. So I'll go through what I've got at the moment. I'll show it on screen as well. What I've got as a basic thing, I don't know if you can see this, but I'll show it on the screen now. But I've got, in a very rough way, a quick snippet of the Holocene. And the Holocene is the epoch that we're currently in, or potentially just leaving because of kind of entering in what is starting to be known as the Anthropocene. The Holocene is all the shit that you know and love for the human era, really. We've got starting roughly at about 10,000 BCE, and that's before the Common Era, for those of you that are not religious. The hunter-gatherers in between the 200,000 years of the humans becoming the human species, growing into humanity, being hunter-gatherers and stuff, and starting to farm. There's fucking tons of agricultural revolutions throughout the Holocene, but this was the first one. This is the big one, should I say. That's kind of what really made the Holocene, which was the agricultural revolution. Between 10,000 BCE and 3300 BCE, you've got the Neolithic era, 7500 BCE. That's kind of when it like really started kicking off, and that's where all of the juicy bits of ancient historical humanity kind of started really being more obvious. You got different times, but like when you think of ancient eras, that's kind of when you're thinking, or at least anything before that was not really culturally different enough from each other to be called civilization. So Neolithic times and after that is where civilization really starts beginning. So I guess to answer the previous thought, that's where we're going to squish shit up to. You've got 200,000 years before, that's going to be like a line. It's squished up because everything was the fucking same. We were just kind of human, or at least we were human in the most basic sense of the word, where we were just kind of surviving, existing. That stuff happened, and then, what is it, like 25,000 years later, something else interesting happened. A little side note, because 2,500 years isn't a small amount of time for nothing to happen, but obviously stuff was happening because then it kind of explodes into civilization. But funny to see how visual meanings will mean different things and how you kind of edit things to tell a story. I'll go back to the Neolithic era because it's like the most interesting part about this whole bit. I'm getting this information from this poster, if I edit it here. You got the Stone Age at 3300 BCE, a bunch of stuff happens. The Iron Age at 1000 BCE, bunch of other stuff happens, and then you've got the year zero, the Common Era starts. Thereabouts, you've got paper, the stuff that you would recognize today as paper. That's kind of when it started. If you go back to my drawing of the Anthropocene, it is literally just a squiggly line. It's just a crazy squiggly line because a fucking ton of shit happens and it becomes very, very hard to put it on a chart like this, or at least anything simple enough to look at on a chart like this. Though, this poster does it really well, but we'll keep on going back to that later, I'm assuming. To go a little bit deeper, let's have a look at this. It is a lot, and I've only got up to 4000 BCE. There is a bunch of other stuff that I still need to go through, but I'm just note-taking at the moment. I don't know how to make this look pretty, and I've already edited some things that I'm like, that's super interesting, but it's not the biggest thing next to, so like sandwiched between two bigger things, so I've just dropped them. 9600 BCE, Jericho was established, which is the oldest known city. Fun fact is here, if I show you the modern day map, and if we scroll out, that is what some would like to say beef central. There is a lot of problems in that neck of the woods at the moment, and it has been for a while. There is a lot of reasons for why it's so fucked up at the moment, but that is the oldest human place. It should have so much more relevance than just blood at the moment. And I guess it does. It's not like it's just one or two groups of people that owe everything to it. It's all of us. It should be a human-centric place that everyone can kind of know of and be thankful for, rather than a couple of in-groups fighting to the death for this whole area. But that's my my 2 cents on the thing. I'm only thinking about that because I'm looking at the whole span of stuff rather than very kind of specific issues that are happening at the moment. Anyway, I digress. It is also roughly when pigs were domesticated for the first time, so that was 9400 BCE. It's crazy because between the time that we domesticated pigs in general as a species was 9400, cattle wasn't domesticated until 8500. What is that? Give or take 1,000 years. They looked at a pig and said, I can domesticate that. And then it took 1,000 years for them to look at a cow and go, yeah, we can do the same thing. Such a long time to have that first thought with pigs and the same thought with cattle. It would be interesting to see why it was so hard, why it took so long to do that for cows. Anyway, yeah, in between that short span of 1,000 years, they created the first temple. Göbekli Tepe? Göbekli Tepe? I don't know. Either way, it's in modern day southern Turkey. They domesticate a pig, they go about creating a new religion, and then they domesticate a cow. It's fucking crazy. 500 years after that, Mesopotamia starts kind of being more of a place to be. So they start cultivating barley and wheat. 8,000 BCE, humanity started making beer. Not because of the beer. I mean, the fact that beer has been around for almost as long as civilization, I mean, speaks volumes for beer in general, but the little fun fact that I've come across is the last of the saber-toothed cats died out at 8,000 BCE. So beer and saber-toothed tigers were on the planet at the same time. It's just, when you think about saber-tooth, you think Ice Age, no human about, maybe just like cavemen and stuff. But no, we were making beer as those saber-tooth tigers were dying out. So 500 years after that, the Sahel people started creating their culture in what was then the savannas of the Sahara. The area is where Sudan is now, is the main place of that culture. At the same time, you've got Catalhayuk in Anatolia. That's a city, while the Sahel is like a region-spanning culture. That's when cats were being domesticated as well, 7500 BCE. At the same time, goats are being domesticated as well. At least it's not 1,000 years difference, but it's still 500 years. Interesting how these thoughts go so slowly. The new city of Amman in Jordan, I think it's the 8th densest population centre of the Middle East present day. It's one of the oldest cities in the region that isn't Jericho. And Jericho still exists today. It's just, you've got the ancient ruined Jericho, and then you've got Jericho that exists just south of it. Super cool stuff. I want to go there, but I don't want to get swept up in a war, so I guess we have to kind of wait. 7,000 BCE, early European farmers start kicking in through Anatolia. Technically, I guess that's the beginning of Europe, because farming has to come first, right? You've got the Jayahu cultures beginning in modern-day China. Maragath, earliest site of farming and herding in South Asia. Farms and herding are really kicking off roughly at the same time all the way around the globe at that time, which is always quite interesting to think, because we weren't able to talk to each other then. Like, we were worlds apart, yet we were still doing roughly the same sort of thing. So I guess that's kind of why this sort of information travelled so slowly, because it's hard to think. Even like when I was a child, before the internet, you could get information quickly, printing press and television, that sort of stuff. But in the old days, if you had a really good idea, like the guy that domesticated the pigs, or I guess the culture that domesticated pigs for the first time, that sort of ideation being spread over to a following village, a following region, a following country, like further afield, that starts getting less and less of a thing. And then to jump that idea onto cattle, which is a completely different animal, yeah, ideas go super slow. It's just interesting to see how they're going super slow, but they're also happening at the same sort of time. This one was a bit of an odd one. 800 years after that time period, in 6200 BCE, this thing called the 8.2 kiloyear event happens, right? Basically, like an ice shelf falls into the sea and starts melting, dips the global temperature massively, and the sea starts rising in a ridiculous sort of way. So that time period goes a little bit haywire, climate-wise. While that's happening, we're losing early cultures left, right, and centre. You've got proto-writing in modern-day China happening. The earliest ceramics in the Amazon basin, all happening at the same time. Some things are being destroyed, some things are being created. The same sort of time, about 500 years after that, we've got 5500 BCE. Copper smelting in Ploknik and Belavode is discovered. In 4130 BCE, toggling harpoons are invented. Now this is an interesting thing because it starts in the arse end of nowhere and slowly reaches kind of like super North America, and it becomes the ancestral history of the Inuit people that use it to do whaling. And it also has a connection to modern day whaling as well. Wherever you stand on the whaling industry, I'm not a fan of the thought of it. Potentially one of the strong footholds of a bunch of different cultures and civilizations, and that's because of one bit of technology. As we end out the mid-era, 4000 BCE, Fertile Crescent starts kicking off. Mesopotamia as a region is kind of born, and that, can't really see that, you can kind of see it in the background. I'm gonna carry on doing a little bit of research here and there, but I thought I'd kind of like just drop in on you. I do need some sort of tea in a bit, but I'm gonna do this, make some tea, and then we can kind of start putting it together to see how that could be put down on like a mural. Because it can't just be words, even though you kind of need the words to explain everything that's going on. You need the timeline, but you also need pictures of how things are changing, right? So we can start playing around with those ideas. So I've kind of got to the beginning of history, which sounds kind of long, seeing as I've spent so long trying to kind of see where humanity began and started, but you got to remember, like, before that they didn't have any writing, so oh, hi, hello, you okay? Give me, oh, get off, oh, okay. Anyway, what was I saying? At the year 4000 BCE, we got to the Dene-Yenazizian language splits into Nadine and Yenazizian. So the Nadine was the North America language, and the Yenazizian is the Siberian language. So it becomes a little bit of a archaeological issue for direction of migration. When you kind of have one evidence of language being brought from one area, you expect there to be kind of maybe a cut-off point whenever something splits like this. But what they seem to have found is the language splits, but technological continuums and or linguistic effects seem to happen to each other. So it makes it sound like there was still a lot of migration back and forth and trade and ideas being connected between what was the land bridge between Siberia and North America at the time in 4000 BCE. So it becomes a little bit muddled what became where and what the connections are. Anyway, 3600 BCE. The first monumental buildings are made in Sechenbago, Peru. Casma Sechin culture is apparently the oldest in Americas, but then I come across another one called the Carol Soup, which I love because in their language it was called the Naughty Chico. So I love that. So that was coastal Peru. Apparently had the first cities. They can't both be the oldest civilization, so I think they kind of morph into each other. Anyway, we are then going over to the Uruk period in Sumer. So I've actually listened to a podcast about that, the Uruk civilization, or the Sumerian civilization, the city of which is, up until this point, I thought that was the oldest city. I thought was the oldest city, but apparently I'm wrong. So at that time, we've got the first evidence of mummification in Egypt, the discovery of the Indus script from that era. Oh yeah, at the same time, we've got the eradication of the Saharan savannas. So it made the Nile Valley have an influx of immigration due to that climate change. So that might actually be why Egypt became such a busy place, because that was the only nearby place you could live and survive as the Saharan desert became what it is today, you know. So that's quite an interesting observation, I guess. Then we get to 3400 BCE as the earliest evidence of a wheeled vehicle. It's also when one Morn is built in Wales. It's also the same time that Newgrange is built in Ireland, and Ness of Brodgar is built in Orkney. All in the same kind of time span, which is a little odd. Maybe like 100 years of each other. So that's that, I guess. So as we get into the next century there, so 3300 BCE, the Bronze Age begins in the Near East, and the Hakra Indus Valley Civ begins in the Indian subcontinent. So it's starting to stretch out. I didn't really get that many interesting maps, but I'll have a look for it for the edit, I guess. The Yamnaya culture appears on the Pontic Caspian steppe. So these are the people that are beginner civ of most European nations. They are the ones that most likely domesticated horses, which is what drove more people fully into Europe. They also were the first culture to have lactase persistence. So it's because of them that we can enjoy milk and cheese. So well done, Yamnayas. Also, at that time, 3200 BCE, the Sumerian cuneiform writing is formed, which basically ushers in the beginning of recorded history. So a lot of stuff had happened up until that point in time, but then the Sumerians come in and make it solidified, make it a real thing. I'm gonna cut that together and see what we can make. I also need to make a cup of tea because goddamn, I need something in me. I should have found out when tea was made, just so I could end on that point for a bell. So I've done prehistory. That's all the bits and pieces, all the random segments that happened before there was a way of understanding it as a recorded bit of history. Interesting that 3200 BCE is when time began. Should I say history was written down. The next section, all the interesting bits and pieces that you learnt at school throughout the ages. Any random bit of historical fact that you found has normally been recorded history. So that it's way more denser. The stuff that I've looked into means that it's going to be more to do with when cultures started making their own writing style rather than anything else, because then it just goes into the minutiae of the ins and outs of what cultures did, what kingdoms did, what the feudal systems were. That would be impossible to write everything down, because there's only one space for a tiny space for the mural on my mum's wall, right? So that's just going to be not just impossible, but it would be impractical to add everything. The greatest hits is going to have to be the way forward there. Instead of each culture having their own, when their writing style kicks in, start speaking about what's good for them. I guess it's going to have to be technological advancements that kind of really going to highlight the timeline more than anything. Not to say that we can't add writing creations and styles, alphabet formations of cultures and civilization, because that in itself is still a technology. As we entered the Bronze Age, started using wheels, right? That was only one point, but it changes a lot. The second to last point was that a clan of people starting to farm in early European, the whole region as a whole. They are the people that made it possible so that we could eat cheese and drink milk. That in itself has its own cultural significances to different places around Europe and I guess the world, but it's just funny that it goes as far back then, because not all cultures, not all segments of the world really can digest dairy products, which when you think about it is probably not the best thing, but at the same time there is cultural relevance in cheese around the world and not everyone can enjoy that, and it's because of things like that throughout history. Random little segments, ideas and pathways that people, cultures and society have chosen to take, you know. But what is it going to look like? What is the final thing going to look like? At the moment I've just got a list. Maybe I should use AI to give me concept drawings, because I'm not a good enough artist for it to be solely just me. We could get certain things created, then use a projector to make these pictures so we can shade them onto the wall. To do that we first need digitally. We'd also have to get our hands on a projector, but apparently they're not that expensive anymore, which is pretty cool. We've done all the legwork for all the information. If it's physically there, then we can just do it, right? It does mean that I have to make it in about a week. Also, I don't really have that giant amount of spare time, but in the spare time that I have had, I have covered all of human prehistory, so I've not done too badly, I'd say.